Hello and welcome. You're listening to Nature's a Hoot with Tom Morath and Hannah Shaw, the wildlife podcast from the Hawke Conservancy Trust. As you know, we are all about birds at the Trust, but birds don't live alone, they are part of a whole ecosystem. So the podcast is our chance to take a more general look at wildlife beyond birds.
If you're itching to know more about biodiversity or barn owls and eager to explore the worlds of woodlands and wetlands. Basically, if you like wildlife, then you are in good company.
And you don't need to be an expert. We've got that covered as we're joined by some of the greatest voices in conservation to tell us more about what's happening right now in the wild world around us. Coming up in this month's episode, we have our second part of our interview with Megan McCubbin, wildlife writer, conservationist, and, of course, presenter of Springwatch.
So last time, Hannah, Megan talked to us an awful lot. Well, not an awful lot. That sounds like it was arduous, doesn't it? It wasn't. Megan spoke to us a lot about her work on Springwatch and kind of what it's like to be a wildlife TV presenter. And this time, we're going to show you the bit of the interview that was more about her writing and what that was like, kind of bringing out a book in the middle of lockdown and how it was received. So Hannah, how's things with you? I will actually forewarn you that our recording situation is different today. You might get a bit more kind of ambient noise in the background because, technology doesn't really like me very much. And so the only place I can get a good enough signal to talk to Hannah at distance is in the middle of our kind of main office. So you might hear Ryan making himself a coffee. You might hear Alice preparing some of the signage for our weekend events. You might even hear Delilah the chocolate Labrador giving her ear a good old scratch. You never know. So just to forewarn you. But how are you?
I am fine, thank you, Tom. I had a very nice walk this morning around Regis Wildflower Meadow, which was lovely. How's things with you?
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's nice to see the meadow kind of blooming and some wildflowers there. Yeah. And, you know, last time I said I was really disappointed about my wildlife kind of project in the garden, just not really showing any signs of wildlife. Well, we have had some signs of wildlife, which is making me excited. The main one just being that the wildflower patch that we sowed is actually starting to flower now. So we've got flowers of all sorts of different colours. The main ones being the most gorgeous red poppies that are coming through.
Oh, lovely.
So there's like a real colour pop in the garden. And just kind of some of the borders are a little bit kind of more... I don't know, they're just a little bit wilder, I guess, whereas normally perhaps I would have weeded a bit more. I've left things to grow a bit, and the birds, the small birds, the small passerine birds are really liking that because they're kind of hiding in there and coming to the bird feeder and then shooting off again to next door's garden, which anybody who's a long-term listener will probably know that I'm quite bitter about the fact that next door has an enormous garden. And we've got a small one, but I'm a keen advocate for small gardens can be good for wildlife, so it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can deal with it. Still nothing in the pond, though. How's your garden?
No. My garden's good, yes. Like you said, I've also got most of my garden is quite wild. But I've got a couple of really nice wild patches with wildflowers growing, which is lovely. Lots of oxeye daisies. Poppies are starting to come through. And we've got lots of scarlet pimpernel as well, like on the ground, because I raked it all and put some seed down. And those are really nice because they provide nice ground cover. And I found a caterpillar this afternoon, and I was trying to work out what it is. And I'm pretty sure it's a moth. I think it might be a moth called a knotgrass moth caterpillar, so that was quite cool. Nice to see something a bit different.
Very cool. I've noticed around the trust we've got lots of ladybird larvae around the place. You know, these kind of little tiny grubs that kind of, they don't really look anything like ladybirds, do they? Apart from, I think they're black and red still, but people often ask what are they, and they're little baby ladybirds that will grow up into the ladybirds we all know and love. I also, it was only yesterday at time of recording, I sent you that picture of that that moth that was on the door of one of the
really
aviaries.
Nice.
Scarlet tiger moth. I was going round feeding a couple of the owls in the evening, giving them some of their evening tea. And what should I see on one of the doors to the aviaries? But this scarlet what is it? Scarlet tiger moth.
I think it was a scarlet tiger. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful, kind of iridescent where it's dark in colour, and then that lovely kind of red spots on their back. They're just really lovely.
Yeah, there's lots going on at the moment, isn't there? The meadow is amazing. There's so many nice flowers in the meadow and insects, day-flying moths and butterflies and all sorts. It's really worth a visit.
Yeah, well, even if people who listen to the podcast keep up with our social media, you might have seen one of our newest colleagues, James, who's just recently joined the bird team. He took a few photographs of the fox family that have kind of set up residence somewhere around the meadow. We don't know exactly where, but they do come and have a little pace around the meadow once we're closed. So it was the photos are great because the sun's setting and all the wildflowers are out. It's just like a quintessential nature scene with this lovely family of foxes, including their cubs, which is really amazing. Nice. So that was a great capture by James, but lovely to see the wildlife so close to home, really.
Yeah, it is lovely.
Cool. So as always, Hannah, it's time for our bit of fun. It's our matter of fact challenge, which, as you know now, it pitches you and I, Hannah, against one another to come up with the best fact in our chosen category. And remind me what last month's was. Long time ago now.
Most beautiful insect, was it?
It was, yeah. Most beautiful insect. What did you go with?
Picasso bug.
The Picasso bug, yeah. Which, let's face it, as bugs go, pretty beautiful.
Yeah, pretty nice bug.
Didn't seem to really get people as excited as the elephant hawk moth, though, which seemed to do very well. Now, I have to say, it wasn't like a landslide. It was probably 60-40 maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
So just kind of pipped you to the post with the elephant hawk moth, which was my third win of the series. Just getting used to this now.
Is it 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1. 3-1. Well, hey, it's still all to play for with, I don't know how many episodes we've got left to go of the series, but you could make a last-minute comeback with this month's Matter of Fact challenge. So, should we do it?
Yeah, let's go for it. This month's Matter of Fact challenge is...
Most impressive plant.
Okay, so I pondered over this, as I do with every one of these challenges, to try and find a way to win, Tom. I pondered over this for a while and tried to think of what sort of things make a plant impressive. And I had to go for a tree because, trees are just incredible. And thought a lot about it and decided to go for the baobab tree, which is a tree, I'm sure you know it, also sometimes called the upside down tree. Tree found in Africa, Madagascar, and there are a couple of species in Australia, or one species in Australia, I think. And they have these giant, fissured trunks, and these huge wide trunks. And I think both by the way they look and also by how useful they are as a tree, they are my most impressive plant.
When you say they're really useful, are they do they hold whole ecosystems of their own? Are they relied upon by the wildlife around them?
So they have a lot of uses for people, and they have a lot of uses for animals as well. So they're very important food plant for a lot of animals. The fruit, for example, is eaten by monkeys, also by people. I don't know if you've ever tried baobab.
No.
It's quite strange.
Is that something you can pick up in the supermarket, or you kind of need to be in Africa to have it?
No, I think it's been touted as a superfood, hasn't it? So it's probably really expensive.
Right. Yeah. So it's alongside kale and avocado you can have.
But it's quite strange tasting. It's quite sharp, but also sweet, and it's quite powdery as well. But it has 6 times more vitamin C than oranges.
Wow.
So the fruit is eaten by lots of different animals. The bark is eaten by elephants. Elephants actually use the bark, they strip the bark off and eat it when they can't get to water, because it holds a lot of water in its trunk, so it can hold thousands and thousands of litres of water in its trunk. It also, people use the bark to make rope, to make baskets. You can obviously eat the fruit. You can also eat the leaves if you boil them up. I've never tried that. I'm not sure what that would taste like. You can also...
That would be like a Heston recipe, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Kind of a bit odd.
Sure. You can also use the oil from the seeds to make cosmetics, and it is also a medicinal plant. So yeah, very useful plant. And as you said, useful in the ecosystem because it's important for lots of animals nest in it. Lots of animals, bees, for example, use baobabs. Leopards like baobabs because they have big, nice, flat branches for them to
of course,
lie
yeah.
on.
So those classic photographs you see when they're just like chilling in the shade of a tree.
Yeah.
It's likely to be one of those.
Yeah, so that's why I picked the baobab. How about you?
It sounds very, very impressive. What did I go with? I actually went with the giant water lily.
Oh, wow.
This time. I don't know whether you've seen these. Like, I can kind of think back to my primary school days of reading about frogs resting on a lily pad, and you kind of think that's quite small. You know, how does it hold the weight of a frog? A leaf in the water. How does it do that? With these ones, you're under no illusions as to how much they can hold. They can actually hold the weight of a small child because they, when they are fully grown, grow up to 3 meters in diameter.
Whoa.
So they're absolutely huge. You'll find them in Brazil and throughout Colombia and in Bolivia, and they're known as Victoria amazonica, and they're actually named after Queen Victoria, which is interesting. Yeah. But they're the largest water lilies in the world, and they're massive. They're massive. You could, like I say, small child can sit on a giant water lily like this because they're so large. Now, the other thing that kind of drew me to them was not just the fact that they're kind of big and impressive, but also their flowering cycle is kind of interesting as well, and I think quite impressive. So when they first flower, they are white flowers when they first bloom, and apparently they smell like pineapple. Interesting. And that attracts lots and lots of insects in to come and pollinate, and then they close up at night, trapping some of the beetles on the inside whilst they're feeding, which is kind of part of the interesting thing. But also, this only happens once over 2 days. So they open up and flower and they're white. They close up again. So they close up during the daytime.
Yeah.
Open up again the next evening, and they're not white anymore. They are like purple to red colour, and they've completely lost their scent. So that kind of pollination period, opening up for those pollinators to come in with that brightest colour, is very, very short-lived. And, you know, a pineapple-scented giant water lily in, you know, parts of the Amazon, that must be pretty incredible to see. So I thought that was probably one of the most impressive plants. A plant you can stand on. A human being can stand on one.
So they open at night time, so the pollinators must be nocturnal then?
Yeah, I guess so. A bit like some certain species of moths and things in the UK, and
that's interesting.
I guess so. I'm under no illusions of my level of expertise on giant water lilies. So this is information that I gleaned from some reading. But they sound impressive.
They do sound impressive.
I reckon they're probably as impressive as your tree, if not more.
Well, baobabs are pollinated by fruit bats. So
hang on, Hannah. You've had your time.
That's
now,
pretty
remember,
cool.
remember, it's up to you, wherever and however you're listening to Nature's a Hoot, to vote for which fact you think will best fit the bill of most impressive plant.
So head over to our Instagram stories or our Twitter feed, both at Hoot Conservancy, to vote.
We'll of course be revealing the winner of this episode's Matter of Fact Challenge next time.
So Tom, do you remember the great chat we had with Megan McCubbin?
I do. It feels like a long time ago now, but I remember it well.
It does feel like a long time ago. Well, it was so good, and Megan was so generous with her time that we did end up splitting her interview into 2 parts.
Great. And does that mean we get to hear part 2 now?
It does. We join the conversation here as we ask Megan about her latest writing and what it's like bringing out a book during a global pandemic. Okay, Megan, so moving on from presenting to writing, I'd really love to hear more about the process of the book Back to Nature that you wrote with Chris Packham. What was it like the researching and writing process? How was that for you?
It was pretty well structured. I mean, we wrote that book in probably the space of 5 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
So there was a very quick turnaround. It was intense.
That is intense.
Yeah, it was 12-hour, 14-hour, 16-hour writing days. And we got ourselves into a routine of writing, and we covered the wall with post-it notes, which is really helpful when you're writing anything, because you can put down, you put your kind of, not necessarily the definite titles of chapters, but you put down what roughly you want in each, and then you can move the post-its around and play with the structure, which is really helpful. And for me, when it comes to writing, I really like to kind of take it out in bits and know which segments I'm doing. So the post-its was quite good, because I could be like, okay, today I'm going to focus on that topic, and that should be roughly this length, and piece it in. So we kind of worked out what we wanted to do and how we wanted to divide the book. Obviously, 2 people writing it, you have to make sure that it merges 2 very different voices and 2 very different styles of writing.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that married up okay. So Chris kind of took on, I said that he took on the rants because he does it so well. He went off ranting about ranting about loads of different topics, about kind of UK conservation, and the issues that we're facing. And I wanted to kind of really focus on the new science side of it. I wanted to, whilst it's important that we are aware of the issues and what's going on and the solutions, I also wanted to remind people of why we love it in the first place. I wanted to, not all doom and gloom, yes, this is going on, but how amazing are dragonfly eyes? Yeah. Can we all just appreciate that they can see in ultra colour, because that's incredible. So it's kind of pulling the reader out and taking a step back to reminding them why they're reading the book in the first place, why they're into natural history in the first place, or hopefully why they're into natural history in the first place. It's the wonder and how incredible and beautiful it is, and then getting into where we're going wrong in terms of UK conservation and what needs to be done.
Yeah, I loved that aspect, the way that it was written, that you had the 2 sort of separate parts written by Chris and written by you. It was really nice. I really found that it was a really nice mixture of, like good hardcore activism. This is what you need to get out and do. This is the problem. This is what's going on. And then some really nice just nature information and stuff to sort of have wonder about, like you're saying, about the dragonfly eyes and the different things you talked about in the book. Was it sort of, what was like your sort of aim or hope with the book when you were writing it and when it was released?
I hoped that people would read it and feel more empowered. Well, read it, it's a good always good. I did hope that people would read it. A few people have, which is lovely. I'm very grateful. I've read it, thank you very much. I hope people would feel empowered, to be honest, to feel like, yes, it is sometimes intimidating, yes, sometimes it is overwhelming, but we do have the solutions. We know what we can do, and we can do a lot, and we can do it very quickly, and we can make the difference that we all hope to see. But I just wanted to kind of try and get people to turn that kind of feeling, I suppose, into action, whether that is what they could do locally within the space that they had control of, i.e. their gardens, talking about putting ponds in, for example, and the science of why it's important to put ponds in, particularly if you live in a city, because if it's shown that if you have more freshwater ecosystems in a city environment like ponds, then it reduces the temperature, and we all know that cities are higher in temperature, more people, more gases and everything else. So that's really important. Well, from a mental health perspective as well, why it's important. So I wanted to kind of give people the knowledge and the skills of what they could do and why it's important to look after their gardens and the spaces they can do, but also why it's important to come together as a community, because there's some amazing community initiatives. People that are grouped together to buy bits of land, they crowd fund for it, or perhaps, it's a street that puts in loads of hedgehog highways, but coming together as a community, it's great when you do it on your own and you've got your bubble, which is fantastic for wildlife. It's even better when you knock on your neighbour's door and ask them to do the same. And it's even better when they knock on their neighbour's door and ask them to do the same. So we wanted to kind of encourage community conservation, because there's a lot that communities can do together by grouping together, and then also talk about the big NGOs and charities and what should be going on there as well. So to get involved, send a letter to your MP, send a letter to those NGOs, tell them what you think, tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a book that I hope people will feel empowered to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to have those like manageable sort of things that you could do. You could go out and do and think it through about what you could actually do to help. You're saying about community conservation. We did a previous episode about that actually, and talked to Kevin Cummings from the Langham Initiative, because I went to university with Kevin. He's quite a good friend, so it was great to have him on. But you had a chat to him about the Langham Initiative?
Yeah, he's what a fantastic individual and what a fantastic project. I mean, I'm so excited to go to Langham at some stage, and I'd love to go and see it now. Obviously, with restrictions and everything, unable to, but I'd love to go and see it now, and then go again in 10 years. And see that transformation, because it just sounds amazing. It sounds like it's going to be a wildlife haven. But I think transformation is always the key word there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fantastic project. And he said that he always chats to me about it because birds of prey are so amazing up there, and he's always telling me about all the amazing birds of prey he's seeing up there, which I'm very jealous about. But
yeah, no, I really enjoyed the book as well, and I'm not really somebody who can read things very quickly. It takes me a long time to get through a book, and I found that it probably took me as long to read it as it took you guys to write it. So that's how incredible your speed of writing for that one was. But I did manage to finish it really quickly because of that nice, and come up for air for a minute, away from some of the more depressing topics, I guess. It was like, but now this. So it's really nice to have that kind of two-pronged approach. So yeah, it was great. Do you think it's had a good reception? Are you pleased with the reception that the book's had?
I think so. I think publishing a book in the time of COVID is always interesting, because you're never really sure of the figures, because the bookshops are closed and everything else. So
yeah.
Kind of keep your finger on how it's gone. But no, I'm so grateful to everyone that's read it, and the response has been lovely. Everything that we've seen on social media, and lots of people out there doing things, which is fantastic. So I'm just really honoured that people actually want to read it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my signed copy, of which I think we still have some in the shop. If people were listening, they fancy wanting one in the shop at the Hoot Conservancy. I know you and Chris came along a few months ago before we went into the next lockdown. I don't know how long ago it was now, and signed a few copies for us. So yeah, it was fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
So you said that you're writing now as well, and I know it's a very top secret, but is there anything you can tell us about the project you're working on now?
Well, there will be hopefully an announcement coming soon, but let's just say my fingers are at the keyboard again. Okay. And it's a project that I feel really passionate about, and I'm really excited to be able to speak about more. It's really hard having to keep quiet, because
I bet.
But hopefully announcement will be coming soon.
Oh, amazing. I can't wait.
So Megan, do you get much time for, I know one of your other passions is photography, wildlife photography. Have you had much opportunity to get stuck into that as well, alongside writing and presenting and filming and everything else?
I wish I had more. I wish I had more hours in the day. To be honest, I'd love to go, because I think with me, with photography projects, I really like to lose myself in them. I like to get a clear vision in my mind of what photos I'd like to go out and take, and then I love just to go wandering and spend hours on a bit of an adventure, just kind of immersing myself in one particular place, perhaps staying still if that's what I'm photographing, or if I'm photographing plants, I can wander around as much as I want. So it really depends. So I like to have a good period of time, but I haven't had much of in abundance recently.
No, it sounds like you've been very busy.
Which is great. It's fantastic to be busy. But yeah, so I'd like to maybe spring and summer spend a bit more time out with the camera a little bit, because I do enjoy it. It's really good. It's really kind of calming for me. It's brings, because when you focus, I solely focus on one thing, solely focus on the what photos you're trying to take. So it's a really nice kind of way to relax. I find it's beautiful, obviously being out in the wildlife and trying to capture it as well.
Yeah, well, late spring and summer, great time for Reggie's wildflower meadow here. So if you fancy some macro shots of some beautiful wildflowers and moths and butterflies, it's little slice of paradise up there, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love that. I'll be there. I'll be there as soon as I can.
Great.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
So you're also, alongside that, the coordinator, I think, of the Young Bird Photographer competition, of the Young Bird Photographer of the Year competition. Are you running that this year, and how can people get involved if you are?
Yeah, so actually we've just done the judging process for Bird Photographer of the Year. So the winners and announcements will be coming, I believe, in the next couple months. I'm not entirely sure the dates, but they're coming very, very soon. And yeah, so it's been a fantastic competition. It always is. It's open to people all around the world. So wherever you live, as long as it's a photo of something feathery, you can enter it in. It's a really great competition, and the standard is ever increasing. The number of entries is ever increasing, and particularly over the course of lockdown, when people have been exploring, their own back gardens and the birds that are there. So I had some really kind of creative, arty images, which I quite like. I quite like I like images that I've never seen before. And that's always the trick, is to get something original. And there's definitely been lots of that. So it's definitely something to look out for when entries open again for 2022 now. And yeah, we're really excited. I think the youth category is always really important. I think it's lovely young people getting involved in taking these kind of images. Often they take more risks, I think, because they're like, what do you mean I can't shoot into the sun? That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then they'll end up paying off and get a fantastic image from it. And it's fantastic seeing all those skills develop. So yeah, take a look at that and enter for the next time round. It'd be great.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Okay, Megan, so we've asked most of the serious questions, I think, but we've got a couple of slightly sillier ones. So, if you could be any animal or plant, what would you be?
Tricky.
It is tricky.
Say I would be an octopus.
Oh,
really?
I think I'd go octopus because, and I've got a theory for this, because I really love the marine world. I think it's fascinating. It's like a whole other universe the moment that you submerge your head under the water. And octopuses are highly intelligent. So in order to get the best understanding of the marine world, you want to be one of the most intelligent animals there is underwater. Of course, you could be a cetacean, a dolphin or a whale. But I feel like octopus has, they've got a lot more action going on. Sometimes they're a bit more, they shorter lifespan, of course, and they're always active, busy doing. Whales and dolphins are too, of course. But I think I'd go octopus. I'd like to know what it's like to have 8 legs.
Yeah, that short lifespan is incredible, I always think, because they are so intelligent, aren't they? And some of them only live for a year or 2 years.
Yeah, about a year.
Yeah.
No time to get bored.
Sad.
No time to get bored. Always on the move. Always, changing colour. The chromatophore, they're just incredible. The way that they can change the texture of their skin to blend in.
Yeah, incredible.
They're just the most extraordinary animals. And there's so much left to learn about them, and I just feel like I'd learn a lot in a short time as a year being an octopus.
One of our features on the podcast is we do a little competition between Tom and I, and a couple of months ago we did best parent, and I actually chose the Great Pacific octopus because the female, and I'm not sure if this is the same for most octopuses, where she will lay the eggs and then guard the eggs for up to 6 months and keeping them safe for 6 months, and then she lets them go off into the world, and then she dies, which is very sad, but yeah, quite a dedicated parent.
Yeah, they do the most amazing things. Often they sacrifice themselves because they stay to protect their eggs, and therefore they don't have foraging or anything else. So they do kind of
exactly.
when they reproduce. Some species, it's amazing. If you haven't seen My Octopus Teacher on Netflix,
I have. It's amazing.
It's remarkable, and I think that's probably why I'd quite like to be an octopus.
If octopuses around the world ever need somebody to work for them for PR, I think that the two of you as a team here, It would be a force very formidable.
Hannah and I are on the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so next one. If you could only ever see one species again in your life, what would it be?
I'm assuming we're not allowed to say domesticated animals, so I couldn't say poodle.
Yeah, you can keep your pets.
Yeah, you can keep them. Or people.
Goodness, this is hard. Oh no.
It's like desert island discs. We've reached that level.
You're asking some impossible questions now. The thing is, if you asked me the same question tomorrow, I'd probably give you
yeah.
It's very mood dependent. I would say tiger.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen a tiger in the wild?
I have done.
Oh.
Yeah. Bandagar in southern India.
That is major bucket list for me.
The most amazing experience.
Wow.
I've worked quite a bit with tigers, and I'm totally in awe of them. Totally love them, and I owe a big part of my career to having worked with some of them. And I mean, getting to see them in the wild was incredible. A lot of where we were in Bandagar, I mean, some people could be there a week and maybe get 1 or 2 sightings if they were lucky. We got 8 sightings on our first day.
Wow.
It was really unbelievable. It just never happens. We were incredibly lucky, and mum and cubs drinking down at the water. It was one of the best trips ever.
I was going to say that's got to be fairly high up there on a most memorable wildlife experience. Would you say that's your tip top, or like does something else top that in your experience?
It's up there. I think I can never put them above one another because they're all so different and they all mean a lot in different ways.
That's very diplomatic of you.
It's hard, with that shark, the tiger shark in Bimini, for example.
Yes.
Pretty amazing. I've been really lucky to go and see penguins, which is, you're on the edge of the planet, pretty much. You're just so far south and so beautiful. And penguins are funny little creatures and adorable. And, oh, my goodness, so cute. It's unfair to pick between them.
Fair enough. We'll let you off. But is there anything that you've not seen that you think that's on my bucket list? That's why I'd desperately love to see that in the wild at some point in the future.
God, lots of different things. So much. I've never seen a blue whale. I'd like to see that.
Wow, yeah.
But also kind of, the small thing. I haven't spent much time in South America, so I'd like to go and explore kind of more of a jungle environment. But from a UK perspective as well, gosh, there's so much. Basking shark would be great. I've never seen a basking shark. Every time I've gone to try and see one, they disappear. I don't know what it is. It's a thing now. It's becoming. I feel like I'm cursed with basking shark. They just kind of leave the area. Capercaillie. I'd love to see a capercaillie.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's lots on my list.
It's a long list, a long list. Well, Megan, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to us today. It's been a genuine pleasure to hear all about the work that you're doing and to kind of experience your passion for wildlife and get a greater understanding of what you're all about. We look forward to seeing you on our screens once more when Springwatch rolls around, which I think by the time this episode goes out, we're more or less there in Springwatch territory, aren't we? So it's very exciting.
Yeah, so, I hope you enjoy it, the show.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah, in the future. It's weird saying that now.
Yes, it is. No, thank you so much. And genuinely, if you ever fancy coming and taking some photos, flying some birds, it'd be lovely to see you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
No, thank you very much for having me, and hopefully be able to see you properly soon.
Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Megan.
So thanks again to Megan for being so generous with her time and coming to speak to us. Hannah, we probably asked the most difficult question at the end there. If you could only ever see one other animal ever again in your life, what would it be? We should probably do the fair thing and try and answer that ourselves, because it's not an easy one, is it?
No, it's not an easy one at all. What's yours then?
God, this... It's so difficult, isn't it? And we said we were going to be allowed our pets. So I'm sitting about 3 feet away from Delilah right now. And I think if I didn't say her, then she'd be very, very sad and upset. But if I could only ever see one other animal ever again.
Does it have to be an animal you've already seen, do you think? Or would
that's a
you
good
pick
point.
a new one?
Well, I guess it needs to be an animal that you know you like seeing.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
otherwise you think, oh, that's quite boring. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, like if you said blue whale and then it wasn't always cracked up to be.
Not that big. I know you know a lot about this subject, but I think the animal that has kind of left the biggest impression on me when I've seen them in the wild is when spending time in South Africa and seeing an elephant. Like if there was one animal that I could just watch all day, I know we're a bird of prey charity, so maybe I should be picking a bird of prey. I'm going to give myself birds of prey and say, well, I've seen a lot of birds of prey, but just the kind of presence of an elephant is pretty amazing. But then equally, fairly recently I've seen a barn owl again hunting in the evening, and that's always a moment, isn't it? So
it really is, yeah.
It probably between the two of them. How about you?
Well, snap, because mine is without a doubt elephant.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're in the wrong job.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know what it is about. It's something that you can't really even describe with elephants. They're just so intelligent and so intuitive and complex and massive. They're just incredible to be around. And to have that taken away, like to think that I would never ever be able to see an elephant ever again would be really upsetting.
Yeah. I think that's fair. That's fair.
But I mean, there's still loads of stuff I haven't seen that I do want to see. Like, I would like to see a blue whale.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about this, Hannah, is it's totally hypothetical. So although when you're thinking about the question, you're thinking, oh God, I've really got to make this decision. And the great thing is you actually don't.
Yeah.
You can go and see whatever you like when travel restrictions allow.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Great. Well, Hannah, it is now time for July's top tip from me.
When the weather is fine in July, it can be a great time to get out in the garden with the family and build a bug hotel together. Planning for the wetter, colder days to come in the autumn and winter, and providing hiding spaces for the mini beasts in your garden. Start with the basic structure. Pallets can be great for this. When stacked on top of one another, they create layers with lots of gaps where different insect life can thrive. Now, add your fillings. Each layer can be a little bit different. Dead wood and loose bark for species like beetles, centipedes, spiders and woodlice. Holes and small tubes are good, perhaps bamboo canes. They're great for bees. Larger holes with stones can provide the cooler and slightly damper conditions enjoyed by frogs and toads. If you put this in the centre, it'll give them a great frost-free place to spend the winter. Dry leaves in certain parts of your pallets, sticks and straw, that's great for ladybirds because it mimics the dry, natural forest floor. Pack it all together and hey presto, your bug hotel come bug B&B is open for business. Let us know how you get on with your bug hotel by emailing us podcast@hawkconservancy.org.
I've got 3 bees in my bee barrel.
Have you?
Yeah. Well, I think they're bees anyway. They're I didn't see them go in. I saw one go in, which was a bee, but then they've closed up the, it's the.
Yes, they've shut the door behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on 3 of them, so there's 3 different ones.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah, with some mud or
Brilliant.
something.
So they're like solitary bees, aren't they? Like mason bees or whatever.
I think there must be, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's it for our July episode. Summer is well and truly here, and Hannah, I can tell you that the birds here are loving some of the warmer weather that we're having, and they're flying brilliantly at the moment.
Are they? That means it's definitely time to come for a visit then.
Yeah, it's the best time of the year, really. Visiting us, I would mention, is a great way to help us as well. And if you can get an unforgettable day out of it too, then what could be better?
Yeah. A quick reminder of our Matter of Fact challenge. You can vote for either Tom or obviously me on our Instagram stories or our poll on Twitter.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, there's loads more where that came from, so don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss out.
If you'd like to know more about anything we've talked about in today's show, then head over to our social media pages where you'll find our blog that accompanies this podcast and loads more besides. Just go to @Hawk Conservancy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube.
No, it's worth mentioning, actually, Hannah, as well, that it really helps us if people that listen to us leave us a review somewhere. Wherever you're listening to us, most of the platforms allow you to leave a review. And there was actually one that I picked up this week, and I want to read it to you. Yeah. It's from username louis.erks.is. According to... this was from Apple Podcasts, and according to Apple Podcasts... Louis is in the Philippines, of all places, and so we're like international here.
Global.
Absolutely. This is what he said. He said, "I'm so glad I found this podcast. Every episode is interesting, and it fuels your love for the environment, nature, and wildlife."
Oh, that's lovely.
If there was a mission statement for the podcast alone, that was it, wasn't it? So happy with that. Thanks for that, Louis. And it's nice to hear that we'd certainly fuel some passion. If you'd like to leave us a review, very, very much appreciated, and maybe we'll try and read out a couple more when we see them, when we spot them. Now, next month we'll be talking all about the wonderful world of bird of prey senses. Are eagles' eyes really as amazing as we've always thought, and are vultures the only birds of prey to possess a sense of smell? All this and more to come in the August episode.
That sounds like it's going to be a good one.
It will. But from Hannah and I, it's goodbye. Until next time. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.